Hello and what is going on today, guys? Tomcat here, and welcome to a brand new video where we are going to be talking about SnowRunner. Now, it's been a little while since we've talked about SnowRunner on the channel, and in this video, we're actually going to a old map with a new rig, which is actually a really nicely set up patrol. This is one of Surge's rigs, and I do want to go ahead and let you guys know and warn you guys in the beginning of the video that I had a bit of an issue with audio. And the audio ended up not coming through properly, and so I do greatly apologize for that. Not sure what happened, but at the end of the day, this video, the point of this video is to talk about SnowRunner and just about everything we know so far. So we'll be talking about individual vehicles, as well as talking about the latest community update, which, yes, was back towards the end of October last month, but I'm going to break it down anyway for those that may have missed it. Now, I'm going to be talking about vehicles first, and then going to be going back and talk about that October community update towards the second half of the video, because of the fact that there may be some people that have already read or seen that particular community update. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into vehicles that we know of so far. And also keep in mind, we will be referring to the vehicles as their in-game names because of the fact that some of these vehicles are not licensed and some of them are. First of all, we're going to be looking at the Western Star 6900 Twin Steer, which is not all-wheel drive, but diff lock is switchable, and its role is a heavy. So right off the bat, we're looking at a massive truck here. This is definitely going to be one of your heavy lifters when you're out in the wild, out in the wilderness, doing a lot of hauling. And I feel like it might be able to do some rescue stuff too, but it depends on how it's positioned. Next up, we're going to be looking at the Dawn 71. Its role is a scout, and stock all-wheel drive is switchable, and diff lock is unavailable. So you're dealing with a four-wheel drive open diff hatchback, which I'm not sure how this thing's going to be. I feel like it's going to be sort of along the same lines as the role that the UAZ has played in, previous Spin Tires and Mudrunner titles. And I feel like it might be a little bit underpowered, but at the same time, it might be fun because of the fact that it's underpowered. Next up is a truck that I'm actually very personally excited about, and that is the International Lodestar 1700. Now, even though they consider it a scout truck, I feel like it could be put to use for more. I mean, all-wheel drive is always on, and diff lock is always on, which is very exciting to me because when you look at a truck like this, you go, is that going to be it looks more like an on-road type truck, but when they say diff lock always on and all-wheel drive always on and a role of a scout, you can only assume that they're going to have you take those street tires off and repurpose this thing into some sort of crazy off-road focused rig, which would be absolutely incredible in the customization department. Next up, this thing, oh my god, this thing is coming up next. It's a big guy. It is it's called in the game the Kolob 74941, and it is another heavy. It's another 8x8 switchable all-wheel drive and switchable diff lock, so a little bit of an edge on the Western Star there because of the fact that it does have more switching capability in terms of your all-wheel drive and diff lock systems, and it's got a 340-liter fuel capacity, which sounds like a lot, but at the same time, if it drinks fuel as fast as it looks like it does, that's not actually going to be a lot. That's not actually going to be all that much. So this is one that I'm definitely interested to see how it works out and how it goes. I know there have been some people that I've seen, especially in, or I saw a while back in SnowRunner's Discord, that were curious as to whether or not SnowRunner was going to have still a bit of a focus on Russian trucks as well as American trucks, and it seems as though they are definitely going to. Now, this next one is one that I'm very excited about personally because I have a liking for these old Freightliners. This is the Freightliner M916A1, and it's got switchable all-wheel drive, diff lock always on, and its role is off-road. But again, we see in this shot that it's got street tires, so there's it should only go to show that, or at least only go to hint at the fact that we'll hopefully be able to change those out for something a little bit more capable and a little bit more off-road focused. But even then, even then, I feel like it'll still be a good rig off-road. My only problem is if they don't let us change out those tires, if they don't let us change out those tires for something a little bit more off-road worthy, and we're talking about a realistic game here, then they'll literally just get caked and packed with mud so freaking fast that you won't even know what hit you, and then all of a sudden your tires won't have any grip whatsoever. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Now, coming up next, this is actually a very, very interesting truck. It's a truck that should be interesting to drive and be interesting to see what it can actually do and what it's capable of. It's the International Fleet Star F2070A, and the all-wheel drive is considered upgradable. The diff lock is considered switchable, and roll considered heavy duty. Now, if you see right now, there's no front axle. It's just a beam to support the front springs and the front suspension. However, with the all-wheel drive being upgradable, that is like basically going ahead and saying right off the bat that you can take trucks that do not start out as all-wheel drive and upgrade them to be all-wheel drive. You should be able to put a driven front axle under this truck. Now, with that being said, that's really cool because if you start out with that thing, and it's only rear wheel, well, it's not even like just rear wheel drive. I mean, driven to just the rear two axles. It would be a really interesting thing to see the difference in capability between when it's just, rear bias versus when you actually put a driven front axle underneath it. The abilities of that truck should go through the roof. Now, up next, they haven't forgotten about the Russian trucks. This is the considered in the game to be the Azov 64131. All-wheel drive always on, diff lock always on, roll off-road. Now, in this shot, it actually sort of looks like a fire truck. It's got a little bit of like a weird like fire truck paint scheme. I don't know if that's something they were going for or not, but it looks as though it almost looks as though they kind of positioned it in the role of maybe a rescue truck. It's probably not. I mean, but from my perspective as looking at, the lights on top and the design on the side, it looks a little bit emergency vehicle-ish, but those are probably just beacons up top, and the design is probably just a certain design that comes on the truck. It's probably got nothing to do with rescue or emergency recovery in the game, but it would be really cool to use it for that if that was something that you wanted to do. Now, last but not least, in the vehicles department for this video is the Tagus 6436, all-wheel drive always on, diff lock always on, roll off-road. And this is another truck that I think is going to be a really good log truck. I think this one is going to kind of take the place of where your general assortment of like Kamaz trucks were in MudRunner and original spin tires, because those trucks were really heavy duty. Those trucks were really good in the mud. At least most of them were. And some of the ones that had the really big, really wide tires were actually absolute beasts in the mud, especially when pulling a trailer. Those things were workhorses, and you guys know them. A lot of you guys love them, and as we cut back to the gameplay, we see this thing being dragged on its roof. That's because I flipped it over. And yeah, I flipped it over. I was kind of a blithering idiot and ended up on my top, but that's neither here nor there. And we're going to move on to a few things that I wanted to touch on about the previous community update in case you guys missed it. Now, one of the first things that I wanted to talk about and sort of do a bit of a roundup on is maps and gateways between maps. Now, as you can see, there is a tunnel here on this map, Smithville Dam, that allows you to actually have a gateway into another map called Black River, and you can see actually the Dawn 71, which we talked about earlier. Now, I also wanted to say that you could obviously see that it's set in Michigan. You can see that they actually give you like a proper time now. It says morning, 6:52 a.m., and the maps themselves look a lot more detailed. They look a lot more detailed in terms of like the fine details and the fine locations of everything, and I think that the roads themselves look a bit more detailed, as well as the trees. You actually feel like you're looking at a, really nicely modeled map rather than just kind of looking down on something that was just kind of there. But I really like the style here, and I really like what they're going for. And as you can see, obviously, a lot of the map is still cloaked. But speaking of that, there are some other things that I'm very, very curious about, too, with the cloaking devices, because the cloaking devices, will they be the same exact type thing, or will they be a little bit trickier to find, or will there be a different process to unlock them? I don't know. We'll have to find out. Also, it's very important to note that some of these tunnels will only unlock after you've completed certain objectives and met certain parameters within a map. And let me just say that this fall setting is absolutely beautiful. It's just so gorgeous. This is another shot taken in the Michigan region, and I'm really, really blown away by the look and kind of design that they're going for here, because it's definitely a lot less, a lot less hazy and constantly foggy than a lot of the more Russian-based maps, which is really cool, and I really like that, and I think they've done a good job of conveying that environment of the U.S., but again, I'm sure there's still going to be maps that are set in that sort of like, Russian/Eastern European kind of biome, if you will. And I feel like, yes, there will probably be some of that fog and haze in the maps like that, but maps that are based in the U.S., I think, are a lot better off without that, and I think they realize that, and they showed us that with American Wilds in MudRunner, that they didn't have to have all that fog and that haze, and in SnowRunner, since a lot of the maps are U.S. focused, I definitely think that they're moving in the direction of being able to do both and being able to alternate between both aspects depending on what kind of, sort of environment or biome they're in. So if you guys enjoyed this video and you have any questions or you have any comments or opinions that you'd like to voice on SnowRunner, or things that you're excited about, things that you're nervous about, let me know in that comment section below. We'll be doing a lot more SnowRunner coverage as we get it, and I know there hasn't been a video on the topic of SnowRunner in a while, but the whole reason for that is because there really hasn't been that much to cover, so I've been sort of letting all of the information build up so we could make, so we actually had enough information to kind of make a big full roundup video about like we did today. But again, make sure you stay tuned here for the latest on SnowRunner, and I will see you guys in the next one. Talk to y'all later. Make sure to subscribe for more. See you guys next time.